All right, so welcome back. We're talking about the launch period. And the launch portion in this diagram here, this vision that God gave me, was the next thing here is the launching. And the launching starts right here. And what's important about this to understand is that in the launching, to go forward, you've had a love test. You've had a love test. He's tested that your reason you're going forward is out of not just obedience, but out of your love for Him. And what pleases Him is all that matters. Because, as I've said many times, you can have great faith, you can have obedience, you can have great giftings, you can have a gift of deliverance where you can deliver people from demonic influences and all kinds of hardships. You can have gifts of healing, of sickness, and all this. But if you don't have love, God's love has not been developed in you, where you will lay down your life out of love for Him and the brethren, you're not ready yet to be used as His ambassador. Remember, we're called to be ambassadors of Him. That means when they see you, they see Jesus in a sense. Does that make sense? It's not heretical. You reflect Him. That was the apostles. They reflected Christ. They weren't Christ, but they reflected the same spirit that He had, which was love. So even Paul's criticizing of some of the things they were involved in, it wasn't out of condemnation, a spirit of condemnation. It was a spirit of restoration. His purpose in correcting them and chastening them and rebuking them in cases was to restore them into a healthy place, not condemning them. Yeah. Well, that means their hearts had to be changed to be like Christ's heart. The Father's heart had to be placed in them, a heart of love, where He sent His only Son to die for us out of love for us when we didn't deserve it. Yeah. Now that's what His ambassadors must be like. So, though we won't be perfect, we've got to carry some of those and reflect some of those characteristics. And love must be at the center of it. So, early on in our wilderness, when we first started, He gave us a little glimpse. Kind of like Joseph, when he got a glimpse in the beginning, before he was actually sent into his wilderness training time, where he was sold to Potiphar. He had two dreams, remember, about his family bowing down to him. And so He gave him a glimpse of how he was going to be used in a small way. Well, with us, He did the same thing. We had just started the process. We had just surrendered to His lordship. That's what He required, surrender to my lordship, not just my saviorship. And then it started. And then we had this house that He had us buy that had this acre in the backyard, and it was near a river. Beautiful setting. Had no fences, had nothing on it. And then we heard, because we've always loved horses, and we've had horses. But when He moved us here in this location, first here in the area in which we lived, to raise our children, He had us get rid of our horses. So we had no horses, but we still had a love for horses. And so we discovered, and we loved Arabian horses. Yeah. And we discovered, we read or heard about that there was this...
I heard about it from a friend.
There was the son, this horse was the son of the leading Arabian horse in the world. And it was an incredibly valuable horse. And we go, he's in our area. Let's go see him. So we take our two girls.
We heard that he was for sale.
Yeah, and let's go see him. We had no intention of buying this horse because he's the son of the leading Arabian horse in the world, but we wanted to see him. So we took the girls, who were little at the time, and we go over to see him. And here he is in a rundown corral. Fences falling apart.
Nails sticking out. It was an awful place.
And here's this incredible royal horse.
Royal blood in him.
Had just been broken down. He was at least 300, 350 pounds underweight. So when a horse weighs roughly 1,000 pounds, that's a lot of weight. And all of his bones were sticking out, and he just hung his head. And this is royal blood.
It was
It's an incredible animal. And he's
so
just
sad.
hanging his head. And we got the owner of the place, and we said, what's happened to him? He says, well, the owner of the horse,
Doesn't come around
Doesn't come
much.
around. And doesn't take care of him. And so he's just been left, abandoned, deserted. And I said, oh, that's terrible. And we just would sit there and we'd stroke the horse.
Stroke his neck,
he
and
would
his hand, all of his hair would just come out in clumps, and it was just, he was such a mess, and he looked so bad.
So
You didn't know if he was going to make it.
So we thought, well, we'll take some carrots and some apples and things like that to him. So we went home and we got some carrots and apples. We came back and we let the girls feed him and we'd feed him. And
God wouldn't let us get that horse out of our mind. We went home and tried to not think about him because it was so hard to look at him. And then we just kept being drawn back.
So we go back one time, and now remember, he's for sale. But an enormous price because he's the son of this leading Arabian.
Yeah.
And we're back feeding the horse again, and the Lord says to us, buy him. And we go, no. We can't even ride this horse. We can't do anything with this horse. This horse can't hardly move.
He might not live.
And no way would I pay that amount of money. And he said, here's what he said to me, it's not your money. Buy him. And this was the first time he was dealing with me as under lordship, of realizing that everything I had was not mine anymore. It's his. And he said, spend the money that I've given you to buy him. And I said, this makes no logical sense. And we're not, but doesn't it say in Proverbs 3, 5, and 6, we're not to lean to our logic and understanding, but acknowledge him in all things and get his permission and direction, and he will lead us into our prosperous path. So we said, okay, but what are we going to do with him? We don't have fences. We don't even have water back there. We've got to get a tub. I mean, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? So we tell the ranch owner, says, okay, we'll tell the owner we'll buy him. We're supposed to buy him. And he goes, the full price? I said, yes.
Yeah.
I know it seems stupid, but yes. And we couldn't even explain. So we wrote the check. We fortunately had the horse had enough strength to get into a trailer to trailer him back to our property. And now we stick him in the backyard. There's no fences, but he can't walk anyway, so he's not going to run away.
No, he mostly just laid down.
He just laid down. And we got an old bathtub that we found in a junkyard somewhere and filled it full of water, and that was his water.
That was his water.
So I said, we get him in the backyard. He's laying down like this blob in the backyard. And we said, now what do we do with him, Lord? We felt foolish to our neighbors. We felt foolish to anybody that had a brain in their head would say, why would you do that? And in fact, I remember before we took him, we called to get a vet check. So we had the veterinarian come out.
Yeah, that's common when you buy a horse. You have a vet come out and check them to if they're sound, which means everything's okay.
So,
bottom line is, he said no. He said, I can't give you a guarantee that this horse is even going to live. You know, the decision is yours, what you do. And well.
So he said, no, he's got arthritis. He's got bad hips, got bad feet. I don't think he's even going to live. He's 350 pounds
He says he
underweight.
wasn't even sure,
And he said, so I would not suggest you buy him. I said, but we're supposed to buy him. So we bought him. Now we get him home. He's laying as a blob on the ground. We say, now what do we do, Lord? Now we're young in this. We're new in walking in the Spirit. And so we're thinking we are either crazy or we're obeying. And we hope we are obeying, and we hope we heard right. And so we're praying, and as a family, we're all praying, what do we do with him now? And he says this, profound, never forgot it, and boy was it true, truer than what we knew at the time. He says, I want you to love him back to health. Love him back. And I go, what's that look like?
Yeah.
What's that mean?
Okay, we'll do it, but what does that
So-
look like?
Okay, so we go out and we lay on the ground, all four of us. We lay on the ground and begin to stroke his head and his neck and just tell him over and over, we love you, we love you, we love you. And remind him who he is. He's the son of royal blood. Connect the dots. He's the son of royal blood. So are we. And he strokes
Sons and daughters.
of this broken down animal like us.
And our little girls just loved on him.
They
and
would lay on his belly.
brush him and, you know, comb him out all his tangles and cut out the tangles out of his mane and knots. And
So we would do this several times a day, and he'd just lay there. He wasn't frightened. He couldn't move anywhere anyway. And then little by little, he started to get up. And he would wait for us by the back porch of when we were going to come out to love him.
it was so cute. He would stand literally right there and he would have his face pressed against the window of our family room.
Saying, come out, come out. And we'd go out and we'd love him. Now he's standing. So we'd be loving him and loving him. And we were to give him, the Lord said, now give him the best feed you can give him. In other words, pour more money into it. Totally illogical. Take more of the money that you have that's not yours and put it into him. And give him the best grain. And now,
And vitamins. And
now I want you to
shampoos
hire
and
the best trainer you can find to come out and train him. Just more and more money. And I'm going, are you kidding? He can hardly walk. So we call, we find the best trainer in the area, and he comes out and he looks at the horse. He says,
what do you
what
want
do
me
you want
to
me
do
to do
with
with
him?
him? I said, this was the quote, make him all that he was meant to be.
Find out what his abilities and giftings are, his natural abilities, because some horses are meant for working horses, you know, and working cattle. Other horses, they're better at racing. Other horses, they all are made with specific use, for a specific use. So find out what his are, because we don't know anything about him, and then just help him along into that.
Just like we don't know what our gifts are.
Right.
And he's shepherding us into and exposing who he created us to be. That royal blood.
Right.
To come out and express itself. So now we're having vets come out to do what they need to do to him with his feet, his teeth, all that stuff. And the trainer coming out. Well, we're just stroking him and loving him, but now he can walk. So we got to put more money out and put fencing in and corral in.
And built a barn. On
It
and
just
on it
gets
goes.
worse and worse, we think. And the neighbors are all looking at this like,
Just
what's
watching.
going on there? Well, in about 9 months,
Later.
short period of time, 9 months later, he was like a war horse.
He didn't even look
The
the same at all. He transformed before our very eyes, and he was absolutely gorgeous. And his color was like a deep copper, shiny. He filled out, and he had muscles, and
Well, remember, Arabian
was
horses
gorgeous.
were bred for war.
yeah.
They were bred for
fierce.
war. They were
They're
fierce and fearless. And he would run. The trainer would get him running free with no halter, nothing. I'm running through that acre in the backyard, and he would stop and he would snort, and you could hear it all through the valley. Just like, I'm royal blood.
And
we
we
just
just-
looked at that and go, my gosh, it's an amazing
We were just, the
animal.
one day that happened and we realized it, the trainer had said, you know, he's ready for a class, we should put him in, there's a horse show coming to
well,
town.
we heard there's a
National horse show coming
Arabian
to town,
horse
we
show.
should put him in the show. We said, okay, so he had, up to that point, he had found out that he was a really good pleasure, what they call a pleasure horse. He had a really comfortable gait and rocking, like a rocking horse. He goes, we're gonna put him in Western pleasure, that's how I'll train him. So we trained him Western, said, let's put him in the show. and we said, wow, this is really exciting. So we got him registered for the show, for the Western Pleasure class. And it was just a day or two before the show, something unusual happened. This is where the trainer came out to ride him, and he said, I don't have time to ride him. That's when he said, I'm just going to turn him loose and just exercise him a little bit, but I'm not going to be on him. Well, a wind came up and something spooked him, and he took off running. And that's when we saw the muscles ripple and his snort resounded. And that's when we saw it in front of our eyes. And even the trainer went, oh my gosh, that's a different horse. And he said, you know what? He said, we need to put this horse in the Liberty class. And we said, what's a Liberty class? You'll love this. He says, that's when nobody rides the horse. I just bring him out into the middle of the arena by himself, and I let him go, and he's at his liberty to walk, to run, to trot his stuff, and just be himself.
Free.
Free, at his freedom, at his liberty. And we knew that was the Spirit of the Lord, so we said, yes, let's put him in the Liberty class. So
we take him over to this incredible horse show.
It's huge.
And we put him in his stall, and we discover that if you're in the Liberty class, you have to pick a song, and you have to write something that the announcer, when they turn your horse loose amongst the entire arena full of people, the judges don't vote on the best.
That's the only one the judges don't vote on that class.
This is the one where the people will judge the horse.
By their applause.
By their applause. And when we turn them loose. But there needs to be a song playing and words spoken by the announcer as he's running free in his liberty.
So when we didn't know that, and so when we were at there at the show, they called our name over the loudspeakers to come to the office, and that's when they told us this. They said, well, we see your horse is registered for this class, but you need to write a little paragraph or two on like who his sire is, who his father was, and how old he is, and what kind of training, just a little bit of his background. And we knew right then, no, this is God's moment. And matter of fact, the song we picked for them to play in the background as the horse is doing this is called This Is My Moment, My Once in a Lifetime. So then the Lord had us write this.
Which you're going to read in a minute.
Okay.
Or you're going to share in a minute. But on the way to taking the horse into the arena, he is so fired up.
I could hardly hold on to him, leading him along.
She was holding him by a lead rope, and he was throwing her all over the place. He was so much horse.
So powerful.
And we get up right to the entrance to where we're to let him free, and there's all of a sudden we see the vet. The vet that came out to check the horse originally and said he's probably going to die, I wouldn't buy him.
And I said, oh, hi, Dr. So-and-so. And he said, hi. He said, whatever happened with that horse? Did you end up buying him? I said, this is one. And he's like, whoa. And he got big tears in his eyes. And he said, oh, this is wonderful. Good for you. So
now we let him into the arena.
Yeah,
the music's playing, and he's running and prancing.
Oh, he was prancing.
Holding his head up and his tail out, just like, look at me, who I am. In front of everybody.
I am. And as he was at his liberty to just show that this is what the Lord had us write. It says, less than 9 months ago, this horse was lost and alone, unaware of what his full potential really was. Our family found him and felt he deserved a chance to be the very best that he could be. So with love and attention and the best we could give him, his name changed along with his character, from Calvin to Khemo Shaddai, the life of Almighty God. Welcome to the ball, Cinderella. And that's what the announcer read all through the stands. And then
when the announcer finished that, the place went up into an uproar.
People were sobbing all around the arena on their feet.
The Spirit of God came, and he won the Arabian Horse Show.
And then for days afterwards, everyone came to see him. The word spread about him and the story. And our little daughter made a big what do you call it, placard, if you will, and put it on his stall that's called, said the Cinderella horse.
And what's more fascinating is the owner of the #1 horse in the world, the Arabian
That
horse,
was his father.
the owner of that horse called us and said, I've heard about your Cinderella horse. The reputation spread. That's what happened with Israel.
And we got a
When they
chance
went
to
into
witness.
Canaan, the reputation that God was with them spread all through the Canaanite nations. They were fearful of what God was doing through that nation. So what's the point of this? We are that horse. We are the Khemo story.
And he said, now what you've done with this horse.
And this is what he said. And we said, as we were crying, saying, this is amazing transformation. He says, now, and the Lord said, as we were thanking him, said, now what you've done with this horse, I want you to do with people. I want you to love them
No.
into health and wholeness, into all that they can be. And reveal through him that love conquers all.
Help them realize their potential and their destiny in God.
This is truly the power of love.